All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Township of Wainfleet regular council meeting of March 10th, 2026 to order. This time I'd ask everyone that can, please stand for the national anthem. We would like to begin this meeting by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee peoples, acknowledging the One Bowl and Spoon Treaty. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, please note that these meeting proceedings are being broadcast live, recorded, and made available through the Township website and youtube.com. Please visit wainfleet.ca/survey to share your feedback on the regional governance in Niagara. This survey will be open for 2 weeks. Our next regular meeting of council is Tuesday, March 24th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. Are there any remarks from any members of council?
I won't be here on the 24th.
Okay, thank you. Any other remarks from any other members of council? Okay, seeing none. So we'll start with the adoption of the previous council minutes. So I have a motion that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held February 10th, 2026 and the special meeting of council held February 12th, 2026 be adopted as circulated. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councilor McCullen, Councilor Van Fleet. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, we're going to go right into delegations this evening. So we have one registered delegation this evening. Excuse me if I don't pronounce your name correctly. I know it in a different way, but Zohab Masood, respecting the request for site-specific amendment to bylaw number 11-2018 for 43962 Highway 3. So, Mr. Masood, you have 10 minutes to make a presentation.
Hello? Okay. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor Grant and members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Zohaib Masood, and I'm here to request council's consideration of a site-specific amendment to the township's exotic animal bylaw as it applies to 43962 Highway 3. At the outset, I want to be clear about what I am and not asking for tonight. I'm not asking council to approve zoning, grant an exemption, or excuse any past circumstances. I'm asking council to consider whether a site-specific amendment is appropriate on a go-forward basis within council's legislative authority. Following enforcement concerns raised by staff, I engaged with the township in good faith. I paid for and attended pre-consultation, provided written authorization from the property owner, and followed the process as directed. Through that process, staff advised that due to changes in provincial legislation, the former administrative exemption referenced in the exotic animal bylaw is no longer operational, and that any permission for this use would now require council's consideration. I acknowledge and accept that council direction is required. I appreciate staff's confirmation that In the interest of procedural fairness, council is able to consider that this matter in an orderly way. This delegation is not about avoiding regulation. Accordingly, I respectfully ask council to consider whether a site-specific amendment to the exotic animal bylaw is appropriate for this property. Limited strictly to the property and animals identified, and whether a coordinated, policy-based approach is preferable to escalation. For clarity, the request before council is limited to the animals currently housed on the property, consisting of 2 adult Bengal tigers, 1 juvenile Bengal tiger, approximately 8 months old, of age known as Atlas, and 1 hyena known as Maryland. No additional animals, no breeding, no public access, and no commercial activity are being requested. I'm acting in good faith, have written authorization from the property owner, and remain committed to working cooperatively with staff and council to write a resolution that aligns with the township's objectives and council's direction. Thank you for your time and consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Massoud. Is there any discussion? Councilor McCullough, go ahead. Oh,
Thank you for your presentation, sir. You're asking me to make comments of, I know nothing about exotic animals, right? I certainly don't know anything about tigers.
Right.
So I'm going to rely on staff to tell us what to do, because
Okay.
I have no knowledge. It's beyond what I do. So, thank you.
Councilor Wainfleet, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the presentation. I have a few questions. Are Bengal tigers endangered?
They are. Yes.
We're going to circle back to that.
Perfect.
Okay. You also have hyenas, 1 hyena.
Correct. Yes, that's just 1.
Okay. What's the habitat for hyenas?
The habitat for even the size of enclosure or just the
Nope,
enrichment?
nope. Where are they found?
South of Africa.
Going to circle back to that, too. Okay. What credentials do you have to house exotic animals?
Right. So I've got a lot of friends who work in zoos, and I've got Dr. Stephanie Campbellford, who works for Mark Kilman from Kilman Zoo. So she's our vet for the exotic animals.
So you don't have a doctrine?
I do have a doctor, yes.
You have a doctrine?
Yes.
To take care of exotic animals?
Yes.
Oh, would have been good to include that in the
Okay,
package.
sorry.
So, hang on. Okay, do you know that a hyena is one of the most powerful predators on Earth,
Yes,
and that it eats everything?
correct.
Okay, so you're good with one getting out and attacking somebody's livestock? I'm a farmer.
Correct. There's a lot of safety protocols that we have in our enclosure. It's like every 1 foot, we have a 3-foot rebar that goes in the ground. We've got a 4 feet perimeter fence that goes out. Our fences are high. To get to the enclosure, there's no outside doors. Even to get towards the animals, there's like 4 doors that you have to get through. So there's no escaping from them.
Okay, you can roll with that. Do you know that Bengal tigers, their biggest enemy is what? Do you know what their biggest enemy is?
Please tell me.
Humans. Human beings. I have done my research, and I've looked it up, because if I could be an animal activist, I would be, but I'm just far too busy for it. I have zero faith in anything you're doing. What would be your purpose of housing these animals?
It's for rescue base.
It's for what?
Rescue.
Where'd you rescue them from?
From people who can't keep them. I work with a lot of zoos, and sometimes they have animals that they can't, just house.
And do you have documentation to prove that?
Well, yes, I can get that. That's not a problem. There's private people who have animals, and we've taken that step to, save them
From what?
from people, from private ownerships, or, as I say, I work with a lot of zoos.
Okay, and I'm going to come and ask you a question. How has that worked before when you've owned other facilities? Not even owned.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Okay, when you're in Napanee,
Right.
how did that work
For what?
for keeping the dogs?
Well, that's separate, that's, the full story is totally different, like.
Okay.
Yes,
I went down a rabbit hole and followed several different stories.
right.
Okay, why would you pick Wainfleet?
My good friend, Mike lives here, so, yeah. He's the owner, he lives at, the house.
You're the owner?
No, he's not the owner, but he lives there.
Okay, who owns the property?
His name is, I believe it's Mike, or Mike? Sorry, I'll get his name for you.
I mean, I can find the name out
Sure,
pretty
yeah.
easy. I'm asking you who owns
I
it.
don't know his name.
You don't know?
Nope.
Do you rent it?
No, he rents it.
He rents it, you rent it from him?
The animals stay there. But
I'm sorry?
The animals stay on his property.
Okay, so the animals, who takes care of the animals then?
I do, and he does.
You all take care of the animals?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see where I'm going here with all?
I do not. Yes.
Okay. Wainfleet is not the place for exotic animals. We have been down this road before with other people. That's why we have this bylaw, because it's not the place. We're an agricultural place. There's many, many, many small children, and you're right on the highway. Okay? You can tell us whatever you want. We are not going to be on board with this. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Ever. There's far too much risk to the people who live here, and you can't give me information. You should have come prepared.
What
Tell me-
information would you like?
You said you had a doctrine?
Sorry?
You said you had a doctrine in animal care?
A doctrine?
Yes, like you're a doctor. You
No. We have a
School.
doctor, like Dr. Stephanie Campbell. She works for Kilman Zoo.
That I wouldn't be quoting Kilman Zoo.
Who would you quote then?
Not them. Maybe the
Okay.
Toronto Zoo, something with actual credentials. Okay.
Okay.
Not getting on board with it. You should have asked permission before you did it, and you didn't. You just did it, didn't you? So that would be so much simpler had you just come and asked for permission. We still would have said no. But I don't know any township in Ontario who's going to let you come in and house exotic animals. Nowhere. Okay, I don't want your comments. Thank you so much. But there's nowhere, I thank you. We could ask you to leave. I don't know there's anywhere in Ontario where this could happen, where just somebody just comes here, you don't own the property, you don't pay the rent. So, okay, I am not on board, and I had to tell you how I feel.
Absolutely. I appreciate that.
Okay.
All right, that's okay. That's okay.
Councillor Anderson, go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation. I believe that you said that you're not seeking an avoidance by your request. I would very respectfully suggest that seeking an amendment to our bylaw is an avoidance action, and therefore I can't agree with it either. Thank you.
Any other discussion from members of council? Okay. So I will just state that although in principle, it all does sound wonderful, but the problem truly is that when we come into someone comes into this township, you got to come in looking for permission before just going ahead and doing what you choose, right? I wasn't on this council when the exotic bylaw came through, but I remember all the issues that this township dealt with, right? Escape, there's people, getting hands caught in cages. I understand that you're saying that you're going to do something different, but again, I'm going to have to stand with council and the feedback that residents have said that, they truly do not want to see this here, right? There's too much public risk and too much people worried about what's going to happen, so, all right? All right, thank you. Okay, so with that, then if there's no other discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor? Oh. So, okay. Hold, please. Okay, we're just going to have a motion to receive for information. Call the question. All in favor? Oh, mover and seconder. Councillor Van Fleet and Councillor McClellan. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. All right, so we got nothing on the consent agenda this evening. We're going to move to staff reports and recommendations. Community and Development Services staff reports, CDS 01-2026, respecting the request for amendment to the exotic animal bylaw number 11-2018. Ms. Sturton, can you please provide a brief overview of this report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, good evening, Mayor Grant and members of council. I am here tonight to present the staff report prepared by the Manager of Community and Development Services in relation to the delegation that council just received. The exotic animal bylaw provides that no person shall keep a prohibited or dangerous animal in the township. Prohibited or dangerous animal is a defined term, and the definition is a list of animals contained in Schedule A to that bylaw. Tigers and hyenas are both listed in Schedule A and are thus defined as prohibited or dangerous animals in the bylaw. Some kinds of premises within the township are exempt from this prohibition, such as accredited veterinary or animal research facilities, professional film sets with appropriate and professional animal supervision, or premises that are owned and legally operated by an animal rescue organization. None of those exemptions that I've cited or the others listed in section 4.5 of the bylaw are applicable here. Mr. Massoud has asked council to consider a site-specific amendment to the exotic animal bylaw to permit the keeping of 4 prohibited or dangerous animals as defined at the property, being 2 adult tigers, 1 juvenile tiger, and 1 hyena. The delegation materials do not address the basis or justification for this request. The delegate did not explain it in his presentation to council, although I do note that in response to a question from Councillor Van Vliet, he did reference the idea of a rescue or rehabilitation facility. In prior interactions with staff, Mr. Massoud has indicated an intention to establish some sort of sanctuary or rescue facility, but his material to council did not include any proposal, any operational plan, or any supporting documentation in that regard. The keeping of tigers, hyenas, and any other prohibited or dangerous animal at 43962 Highway 3 is in direct contravention of the exotic animal bylaw, and as noted in the staff report, the property is currently the subject of enforcement proceedings under that bylaw. The request for a site-specific amendment is an attempt to address that contravention without removing the animals from the property, which staff do not support. Staff have several concerns about the request for the site-specific amendment. Firstly, it is inconsistent with the purpose of the exotic animal bylaw, which exists to protect the community and its residents from risks associated with animals that by their nature present significant risks. Risks in terms of safety, in terms of containment, in terms of liability. Tigers and hyenas are both inherently dangerous species. So permitting such animals to be kept at the property would create an unnecessary risk both for the township and for its residents. Secondly, there is no provincial legislation that addresses the keeping of exotic, prohibited, or dangerous animals as we've defined them. Provincial legislation only addresses animal welfare pieces. There's nothing in terms of a legislative or regulatory framework to permit, to prohibit, or to regulate the keeping of animals like tigers and hyenas on private property. In the absence of an applicable provincial framework, it falls to the township to oversee and enforce this operation if permitted. This creates a resource issue as the township does not have the equipment, the training, or the inspection capacity to regulate the operational complexities of facilities where tigers, hyenas, and other dangerous animals are kept. Finally, as has been noted by council, the prohibited animals were brought onto this property before any inquiry was made about the permissibility of that action. Retroactively amending a bylaw to permit a use that was commenced unlawfully is problematic and may signal that compliance with township bylaws and regulations is optional, pending subsequent approval. And that's a signal in my submission council does not want to send. So those are the reasons that staff generally do not recommend that council grant the requested amendment, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. So I have a motion that the Council deny the request to amend the Township's exotic bylaw number 11, 2018 to permit the keeping of 3 Bengal tigers and 1 hyena at 43962 Highway 3. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councilor McCullen, Councilor Van Fleet. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, moving on to planning staff reports. PSR 2/2026, respecting zoning bylaw amendment file Z01 2026W, known as 12381 Lakeshore Road, Wainfleet. Ms. Ivins, can you please provide a brief overview of your report?
Thank you through you, Mr. Mayor, to all of council. So this report provides a review of the applicable planning policies as it relates to the zoning bylaw amendment application for 12381 Lakeshore Road. The application proposes to rezone the property from its current residential Lakeshore RLS C15 zone to a site-specific RLS C15-48 zone, which would permit an overall lot coverage of 32% and a maximum accessory building lot coverage of 13.5%. The proposed zoning, if approved, would allow for the construction of a 49.2 square meter detached garage. It's my opinion that the amendment meets the applicable provincial, regional, and township planning policies, and as such, I've recommended that the application be approved, and the implementing bylaw is on tonight's agenda as bylaw number 11. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. So I have a motion that the planning staff report PSR 2/2026 be received and that the zoning bylaw amendment files Z01 2026W for the lands known municipally as 12381 Lakeshore Road be approved for the reasons outlined in this report, and that the application be deemed to be consistent with the Provincial Planning Statement 2024 and conform with the Niagara Official Plan and the Township of Wainfleet Official Plan, and that the zoning bylaw amendment attached as Appendix C be adopted. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councilor Anderson, Councilor McClellan, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, moving on to the memorandum respecting the transfer of part of the abandoned rail corridor. Ms. Ivins, once again, can you please provide a brief overview of this memo?
Thank you. So staff have received applications from Claude Campo, Tracy Ann Campo, and Ronald Freeman to purchase part of the abandoned rail corridor that abuts their properties. These lands are identified as parts 1 and 2 on reference plan 59R 14257, which is the original survey completed by the township in 2010. A subsequent reference plan was prepared to divide parts 1 and 2 into 3 parts to align with the 3 abutting Campo Freeman properties. Those parts are identified as parts 1, 2, and 3 on reference plan 59R 18517. So given that the applicants had to pay for a new reference plan, they had requested that their proportionate share of interest charges on the original 2010 survey be waived. In consultation with finance staff, there are no objections to the interest costs being waived in this circumstance, as the interest cost is not an outstanding debt that the township needs to recover, and the applicant has covered the cost of that second reference plan. So I have bylaw number 12 of 2026 on the agenda for later this evening, and that bylaw would authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the necessary documents to finalize the transfer of those rail corridor lands. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. So with that, I have a motion that the memorandum respecting transfer of part of the abandoned rail corridor be received for information. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councilor Van Fleet and Councilor McClellan. Any discussion? Seeing none? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, moving into review of correspondence. So we have 3 items of correspondence on the agenda for consideration this evening. Item number A is the correspondence item C25, respecting a request for proclamation Mountain View Lemonade Day for Fax Niagara. Does any member of council wish to make a motion? Councilor Van Fleet?
Are we just receiving this for information?
I
I
think
didn't pull it. I don't know who pulled it.
No, I think we're looking whether or not we're going to support the proclamation request.
Yeah, we'll do that.
So moved and seconded by Councilor Van Fleet and Councilor McClellan. Perfect. Any discussion on the matter? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. B, the correspondence item C045, respecting the request for exception to half-load restrictions on Abbey Road. Does any member of council wish to make a motion? Councilor McCullough? Yeah, is that receive for information? Motion for information? Just a motion to receive? Okay. You have a seconder? Councilor Van Fleet, thank you. All right, any discussion? Councilor McCullough? Pass it over to Mr. Nan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess you're looking for staff's opinion on I guess, council's choices, either to provide them with an option. Staff's recommendation is not to allow anybody to use our roads during half-load season, for obvious reasons that we had a very long winter. The grounds are saturated right now, and they're very soft, and any heavy vehicles driving on the roads would do damage to them. If council's choice is to make an exception, I would suggest that you also try and consider entering into a contractual agreement with the landowner, if that's your choice. But I would, again, I'd have to refer to legal staff as far as how that would look. But I leave it to council's decision.
Councilor McCullough, go ahead.
So I drove by there yesterday. He's trying to get a new building up. We probably got a building permit, so everybody knows that. I was thinking what Richard just said, if he wants to take the risk, he should put up a bond or do whatever, or an agreement that he will pay for damages that are caused. That way, he can carry on with his business, but if it rains for 3 days, he should not be driving cement trucks down the road, right, and gravel trucks. So that's, I know what the guy's trying to do, and it's what I do for a living, so I know what he's up against. But sometimes he might say, I would offer him that if he wants to do it, then it's his choice. If not, he'll just have to wait till half-load season's over.
I'm just wondering what Jennifer thinks of.
Good call.
Thank you, Mayor, and to Councillor Van Vliet, thank you for the question. It's possible to paper the permission in a way that ensures the township is not left bearing the cost of any damage that's done to the road. We'd have to do it carefully. I think possibly including some sort of pre-permission look at the road so that there's no dispute down the road as to what's caused by the cement trucks, what isn't. We'd have to be quite precise in terms of identifying the condition of the road currently, what might be attributable to traffic other than the person seeking the half-load exemption, and so on. There's a way to do it. As long as we're careful, there's a way to do it.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Anything else, Councilor Van Fleet? Councilor Anderson, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Richard, could you just remind me what date the half-load ends?
Through your worship, I didn't look it up, but I believe it's the end of April, May 1st.
So from the end of,
Beginning of March,
so it's about 6 or
8 weeks.
8 weeks of construction delay.
I mean, they can still perform construction. All we're requesting is the weight restriction be adhered to, which is basically bringing half loads in. By bringing the weight down on the trucks, poses less risk to damage to the roads.
So if the concrete were 12 trucks, we're telling him he needs to do that in 24 deliveries. Is that correct?
That's correct, because the most of the haulage companies are aware of the half-load season in Wainfleet, and they don't like, they'll try and avoid it 100%, even trying to do it without permission. So they won't actually even load their trucks up if they know they're coming through Wainfleet roads, because they know we're adamant about trying to go after enforcement.
So if I might continue, Mayor, so we're not saying that he cannot do the building. We're just saying that he has to double up on his deliveries.
That's correct. That's what all construction takes place this time of year, is the same thing. We tell them all, adhere to the regulations, and if you're traveling on a road, it's half-load season, and that's 5 ton per axle.
It's just a timing issue.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilor McClellan?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, one thing Richard didn't mention, but, so if you send out a truck half-loaded, you still pay for the whole, the truck, right? So you're paying, your cost goes up. That's why they try and do it. I know in the past, I've gone personally and said, let's do an inspection of a road. You'll video the road with the road superintendent, something like that. If we damage it, we fix it, right? But I don't know if this particular gentleman wants to do that or not, so that's why I said it's an option for him if he wanted to. Otherwise, he can just pay for, it's gonna cost him more in deliveries.
Yep.
So,
Go ahead, Councilor Van Fleet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Richard, have we done this in the past? I can't remember.
yes, I did it here.
Excuse me, I believe the school maybe, but I've never, no other construction project that I'm aware of.
Richard wasn't a road super when I did one.
Councilor Anderson, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor, again. Did we do an exemption on weight of feed loading trucks, greenery trucks that were going in half-load season? Have we done that historically? Seems to be something I kind of,
Excuse me, not that I'm aware of any exemption.
it could be historical then, thank you.
I think some of it you may be thinking about maybe a load restriction on one of the bridges or something, but, because we did have a load restriction on Gents Road previously.
No, I particularly recall something historical on Abbey, and I thought it was feed delivery in off-season, that's all. Thank you.
Richard, I do have one question about it as well. If we were to entertain this, could it, and I guess this goes to both you and Jennifer, because could we include a clause around significant rain events, right? If we allow this, obviously there's good times and bad times even on that to go through. Obviously, it's in their best interest to not bring loads in after huge rain events, but could we put a potential clause in there that states that, within, I don't know if it's 48 hours of any rain events to help try to mitigate some of that potential risk?
I think we can. That'll be something that'll have to be crafted by the wordsmith lawyer. But we would definitely do a similar process to, for instance, what we did with the road use agreement years ago with the windmills. We would actually videotape the roads, document, measure. We would do a whole bunch of things that have to be done prior to, so we have records of it. The issue has become is, we're not going to monitor the road every single day. So if there's any other vehicles that are driving it, he may potentially be responsible for those damages too. Like water trucks or anything else that tries to use those roads, because we're not going to have staff sitting there counting every load that goes through. So that's something he's going to have to be made aware of as well.
If you do it, he takes responsibility for everything, right? It's a risk.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's a risk that if he's willing to take, then perhaps. So, Councilor Anderson, once again.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I sort of have a bit of a concern around the hypotheticals. If it rains, snows, or something else happens, I don't know. Mother Nature can be a bit of a person, but I'm not really sure that making exemptions to well-documented and realistic half-load restrictions, I think that could be a Pandora's box. That was an exception, this is an exception. I think we have the bylaw and the half-load there for a purpose, and I'm a little leery about going outside of that absolute restriction. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any other discussion? All right, so currently the motion on the floor is just to receive. Does anybody want to make an amendment to that motion? Or do we just want to receive for information?
Just trying to figure out how I want to word this motion, but maybe the motion would be that staff talk with the proprietor about this and see where he goes. I mean, if he wants to take the risk and we get it documented, we know he's not running away. He's a solid citizen. So if you make a deal, you make a deal. I think he's got a great business going there. Maybe the risk is worth it to him because he can push more birds through so I don't know. Yeah, how do I put that up properly?
So I would just recommend making a motion for staff direction to engage with the requester and explore a legal agreement that mitigates any risk for the township. And you can just do that as a friendly amendment if the seconder is in agreement with that.
I am not. Sorry. I'm in agreement with what Joan said. No making exceptions. We literally just had a delegation about that, so you're correct, Joan.
So in that case, then, through you, Mr. Mayor, then no friendly amendment. Would ask the chair to call the question on the original motion, which is to receive.
All right, so then with no other discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor to receive? Just to receive. Okay.
Sure.
Opposed? Okay, and that is carried. Okay, now we're going to move into correspondence from ADR Chambers respecting the Code of Conduct Investigation Report File Number IC 356900925. That I have a motion that the correspondence from ADR Chambers respecting Code of Conduct Investigation File Number IC 356900925 be received for information. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Van Fleet? Councillor Anderson, thank you. Any discussion? Councillor McCullen, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. At the start of our term of this year, we signed off again that we would listen to whatever the commissioner came up with. He has the delegated authority on this thing, not us. So we have to listen to what he said. I just wanted to make that clear to everybody. It's not us saying we favor this guy over that guy, or we delegated our authority and this is what came down. So we have to live by it.
Yeah, that is correct. For anybody that is listening or watching, I happen to have the exact clause right here in front of me. So the wording is as follows. The power to impose penalties under subsection 17F is delegated to the Integrity Commissioner, and that the Integrity Commissioner shall not delegate the power to impose the penalties pursuant to subsection 17F, but shall exercise the power personally. So we have delegated that authority to our Integrity Commissioner. Okay. Is there any other discussion on the matter? Seeing none? Okay, then I'll just call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, moving on to bylaws. So I have a motion that the following bylaws be read and passed this 10th day of March 2026. Bylaw number 10, 2026, being a bylaw to delegate financial and staffing authority to the Chief Administrative Officer for the period of nomination day until the end of term. Bylaw number 11, 2026, being a bylaw pursuant to the provisions of Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, CP, Chapter P, I don't know what this stands for, CP 13, to amend zoning bylaw number 34, 2014 of the Corporation of the Township of Wainfleet with respect to those lands forming concession 1, part lot 23 in the Township of Wainfleet and known municipally as 12381 Lakeshore Road. And bylaw number 12, 2026, being a bylaw to authorize the transfer by the Corporation of the Township of Wainfleet in favor of applicants for the abandoned rail corridor as set out in Schedule A, attached hereto. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councilor McCullen? Councilor Anderson, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, are there any notices of motion this evening? Nobody? Okay, so we have no items for closed session this evening. So with that, I'll move to the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council. So I have a motion that the bylaw number 13, 2026, being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of the council of the corporation of the Township of Wainfleet at its regular meeting of council held March 10th, 2026, be read and passed this 10th day of March, 2026. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councilor McClellan? Councilor Anderson, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, so that is carried. So there being no further business, the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.